esports is getting more and more popular each year, from the likes of FIFA to Call of Duty to even Fortnite. And yes, I said Fortnite for the first and only time on this YouTube channel. But Formula One got interested in esports by creating its own series all the way back in 2017. And each year it's just getting bigger and bigger. More and more people are getting interested in trying to get involved to qualify for this esports tournament. Now, one guy who was heavily involved, who's really, really interested in getting himself involved, hands on deck almost, involved with esports, is our very own Lando Norris, a British racing driver, of course, who drives for McLaren. I think he has his own, or he drives in a sim racing team, I believe, where he races on like online things, tournaments and stuff like that with Max Verstappen, I believe. I think that's right. So of course he's really interested in online racing and stuff on other racing games. So of course it's no surprise that he is interested in this. And he's 20-year-old as well, so of course he's down with the kids, really, really, really interested in that. Very has a good impact on social media. So he's a very, very obviously good role model in that department. This week, anyway, he came out and said that he reckons that esports, F1 esports, can produce Formula One drivers for the future. Now, this has been floated about before. Someone has mentioned this on a fair few occasions where they're saying that, esports, the people, sim drivers, sim racing drivers can become professional racing drivers in the future. Now, people are quite divided on this because some are saying, well, that is a good stepping stone, because if you're good in the virtual world, then surely you should have a go at the real world and see if you are actually really good at driving cars, or whether you should really just stick to the virtual world. But then some people are like, well, no, people work a lot. Well, people do make a lot of sacrifices to get to where they are in terms of like the lower ranks of motorsport, of single seater racing. So for then someone to come out of the blue from racing in their bedroom to becoming a professional virtual racing driver and then go into motorsport like that doesn't work like that. That's a bit of a weird way to go about the business. So there's a lot of divided opinion about this. So we're just going to kind of give our thoughts and pretty much discuss, can esports produce Formula One drivers? Lyle, we aren't that clued up on esports. We don't really follow it that closely, but we have played, the Formula One game before. We know how it works and stuff like that, and we know how big and how good some people can be when they do, when they commit to a Formula racing online and stuff like that. So like I said, it is becoming a really popular sport and a really popular, series. So what's your thought initially when you hear that esports could produce Formula One drivers? Where do you sit on this? Are you more, yeah, that sounds good to me, or are you, no, I totally disagree with this. This is not the future for racing?
Well, I mean, firstly, of course, the esports drivers have a part in the team. I think it's 20 drivers, of course, the same as what we have on the actual grid, have it. Very much similar, so, Racing Point have 2 drivers, Haas, Red Bull, Mercedes, of course, all that. And there's been a few races this year. I think Singapore was the last one that I saw, anyways, where the actual drivers, who, again, got no idea what the names are, but they actually appeared with the teams. When I say appeared, I mean they were in the Formula One paddock, with the paddock pass on, with all the stuff. It was actually the Haas guy, got no idea who he is, but he was there, and the guys, are actually part of the team. They have all the personnel, they have the equipment, they're actually represented by them, and again, quite a few times. So on the YouTube channel, before Formula One even starts, normally on the Thursday, they'll have a virtual lab. Again, going back to Singapore, they did it for the Haas guy, the virtual esports. So instead of watching a lap of Roman Grosjean or whatever, you saw a lap of the man who is a Haas esports driver. So they definitely have a part in the team, and it's definitely a big part. It goes a lot more than just racing online and things like that. I mean, it's absolutely massive. They do live events on YouTube as well. Have presenters. Jensen Button's done it. As John said, Lando Norris, people like that. So it is a massive community. As Codemasters gets better, and F1 2019 is the pinnacle of what we have at the moment. They're promoting more of the just race online to qualify, and there's loads of thousands, millions probably in this leagues trying to compete. Of course, I've never done it myself. I'd rather just stick with my career mode. I'm world champion in that anyways, so that's all fine. Reigning, I'm not at the moment. I'm actually in 3rd place, just in the world of me. So yeah, that's not good. But yeah, you're gonna go and qualify. They are part of the team and represented by the team. So the Red Bull guys are part of Red Bull. So they've got that going for them. So they can say, I guess, on the CV that they are a virtual driver for this team. And of course there is other ways into Formula One. So again, just another one that I saw, actually funny enough, in Singapore, but something that I've heard of for a long, long time, and even involved me kind of back in school days, or very briefly anyways. It's just a project called F1 in schools. When I say me, I heard about, we did this project in year 8, me, not Jordan, he wasn't on it, it was, there was 8 of us, and we did this kind of Formula 1 type thing, where we designed this, kind of electronic Formula 1 car for F1 in schools. Of course, we didn't get there, we didn't qualify, but that did lead to me doing a very fun karting session around Croft, this track in Yorkshire. But it was very fun. Anyway, long story short, that was F1 in schools. We didn't qualify, but F1 in schools is something that was created for just students and people like that, young adults, to get into the engineering side. Hopefully it goes well, and then that in turn will lead them to getting into Formula One. And then again, going back to what I saw in Singapore, they had the Formula One, they had the F1 in schools people there on the grid. They even got interviewed by Martin Brundle, had the design there, so he went through the process, and there we go, they were in the Formula One paddock. Of course, that wasn't a guaranteed job, but that's just a route for them to get into Formula One and go from just normal engineers from, school level or whatever, to being an engineer in Formula One. So I think in that way, there's no doubt to say that, esports isn't a route to, kind of get into Formula One. But as a driver, I would say no, because, these drivers are, spending so much money on the track, the go-karts, they're physically there, they're travelling all over the world. You can't, I know a lot of people talk about, the money in Formula One, that's not good, the route is quite hard and things like that, but you can't expect someone to, as John just said, sit and play in a video game, even if they have the best high-tech simulators, the ones that, move all up and down, side to side, like a roller coaster. And
Good one.
You can't expect that to get you into Formula One. It's just not a viable option. And I know Lando Norris is saying that, but again, he is just somebody who is, looking out for the people. He's saying things to, he's an involved Formula One guy. Remember back in the 70s, it was all about, partying, smoking, don't care about Formula One until the Sunday when you just get in the car and put your foot down. Then it became the Nicky Lauders and people like that, calm, cool and collective, stay in your hotel room, study the track. Then it kind of buffered a little bit between the two kind of egos that you had. Then there was more press and paparazzi. Now, of course, the new generation, Lando and Max, are getting in. And of course, as Jordan said, they did some kind of thing around Belgium, I remember, Spa-Francorchamps, and they were just having a bit of a chat online. They also did this kind of 24-hour thing, if you remember that, Jordan.
Yeah.
Kind of did, again, that was around Belgium time. So, of course, they're just moving forward with the times. It's just something to kind of get everyone excited about. Get up, get excited. There's a way into Formula One that isn't about the money, because of course Lando understands what is going on. Again, I don't really know too much about his route, but of course, there will be money about it. Of course, Lewis Hamilton, there's other drivers you can look at, but of course Lewis Hamilton, his dad worked 2 jobs to get him into Formula One. There's so much sacrifice and things to going into Formula One, and I don't think that could be kind of pushed aside for just somebody to drive on a simulator. And again, if they do get to that series, well, there's 2 things. One, that's not an actual car. They're not actually driving a car, they're driving a computer. When I said at the start is the possibilities of getting into Formula One, there could possibly be, they could maybe do sim work. There is actually a simulation kind of team. When we went for the tour of Force India, for example, down in Silverstone, we learned that there is actually a simulation team that work on the actual Force India as we call it, simulator, and maybe they could get in that, maybe they could get in the engineering department, maybe this could lead to something in Formula One, but not as a driver, because as we know, that's not the most important thing in Formula One, but of course that is a cherry on the cake. That's the thing that everyone looks at. And if that is a route that someone's going to get, well, it's going to open the floodgates to people kind of going, well, how come you didn't take me and you took him and not me? I can drive quite fast. Yeah, but you're just using a little Xbox controller. He has a £50,000, proper Codemasters, proper, seat. But yeah, in my personal opinion, I don't think so. But that being said, though, Jordan, there's no doubt that this esport has taken off so much, and the teams are, these people are actually personnel of the team. They have the overalls, they're part of the team. I don't know about, if they get paid or anything, but they are part of this Red Bull or whatever, Mercedes, they are part of that team.
Yeah.
And that's quite cool, because again, don't know too much about what they're doing, but they are part of that community. But it is just esports. and it is also getting a massive thing. Jordan, of course, the original question, will they get into Formula One? But I also want to kind of ask you, because now, as you said at the start, people playing FIFA, Fortnite. Of course, Fortnite said it twice now. No, not Fortnite. But other things, football, for example, NFL, Madden, things like that. NHL.
Yeah.
They are famous in their own right, and of course, YouTube now is one of the most famous, one of the most prevalent, platforms. Actually, it's overtaken live TV. No one watches live TV anymore. It's all about YouTube. It's all about people watching us. So, thank you.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
that being said, Formula One driver, my opinion, no. But are they famous in their own right? And can that lead to a job, as I say, in Formula One, or kind of as a role model in the esports? What I mean is that there might not be physical, manual, in the real world Formula One, or IRL, as the kids call it, Formula One drivers, but will there be famous virtual drivers? So will will the esports McLaren driver be the virtual Lando Norris? Will he be as famous as virtual Lando Norris? And the second thing is, will he ever get to Formula One? But what kind of job could he fill in Formula One if that could kind of open the doors? Because in my opinion, I think to get into Formula One it could do, but not as I've said, not a driver. So I mean, do you think that this esports thing is kind of a famous route? Do you think it is becoming, you can be a famous professional esports Formula One driver?
You could be. I believe. I think, like I said, esports is getting more and more popular, and I don't know what the future holds for the series. Whether it's going to be a genuine, proper championship every single week, or I don't know what it's going to be. But we're living in an age where social media and the likes of YouTube and stuff, and everything online and virtual reality can get you famous. You've got people who's famous on YouTube and stuff. Like, I'd imagine when YouTube first started, and then people started making YouTube channels like what we do here. And I bet people were like, oh, he'll never make it on TV or whatever. Yet there's people who got careers, whether that's a presenter or working behind the camera or editing wise, who are really involved in TV shows. So that it can become a stepping stone into something, or you just stay where you are and become famous for this purpose only, for YouTube or whatever. And I think people can just stick in the world of esports, for F1 esports, and make a name for themselves. Like, for example, I'll mention Brendan Lee. He's the only one I know because he's the only world champion in esports. He's won it twice, and he drives for Mercedes, funny enough. He's the only one I know off the top of my head.
I wish it was Williams. That would have made it pretty good if the esports world champion was a Williams driver or something like that. But yeah, Mercedes. But I guess. Even online, they're the best.
Exactly. They're just the best everywhere you go. But in terms of like getting to Formula One, no. Simulation work, definitely, that's a possibility, but no. But what I will say though is that it can, like I said, become a stepping stone. Like what I said before about YouTube, can become a stepping stone for people who can become heavily involved, more or less behind the scenes on TV shows or documentaries or films or whatever. Like they can become behind the scenes into Formula One itself, but you can also become a racing driver. Now, a racing driver as a whole, yes. If you take, if you are an esports driver and you're doing really, really well, you get offered a contract to race in, I don't know, a very obscure series, a single-seater series, then yeah, you can do that. Of course you can. Of course you need the training and stuff, a bit of finance here and there, but I'm pretty sure because of Formula, I keep saying Formula E, for esports, I'm pretty sure you'll have some backing. Whether that's some of the sponsors from the team you were with, or a sponsor that you purposely have, because I know that some teams have like their own actual kits, some teams have their own personalised kits with their own sponsors on as well, so get them involved in there. So yeah, I think in Formula One, no, but as a racing driver, yes. Now I'm going to use a prime example. One guy, I always remember this guy. So those living in the UK, you might know this, or there might be another series like this in somewhere in Europe or anywhere else if you're watching this from another country. But there was a series called Nissan GT Driver Academy. I don't know if you remember that one, Lyle. It was on a good few years ago. It was on ITV4, I think, over in the UK. Yeah. It was like you would get people who used to play Gran Turismo on the PS4, and they would get. Obviously, they would have like a competition. Go right, okay. Entries are open for this competition to become into GT. Into this GT autosport thing. And of course, you go through different stages up until you had like your last, I think it was last 12, I think, or last 8, and you would get put on this TV show, and you would get given actual driving like racing tests to do. So like putting your skills from the virtual world into real life, and the winner would get a racing contract. Now, a guy won it in 2011 called Jan Mardenborough. You might recognise that name. Now, when I first heard that he won, I remember watching that series very, very well. Obviously, he won it, and he went to try and pursue a career in the motorsport. Now, I've seen shows like this before, where, for example, like there was a football one I remember a good few years ago, where you would go through different phases or different tasks, and then the winner would get a real life contract for football, and then about a year later they would just completely fade away. They would go nowhere. Jan, on the other hand, he actually did quite well. He actually got all the way to, first of all, he got to British Formula 3, and then in European Formula 3, the same series as what Mick Schumacher won last season, in 2013. And then he got to as high as GP2. He only raced there for a couple of races. He got up to GP2, which is now Formula 2, and he competed full time into Formula 3 for 2 years. So that's pretty impressive, bearing in mind that before GT Academy, he had no racing experience at all. So that's good going. So that tells me that, all right, that is an esports, but that's very, very similar. And that's like a stepping stone into a racing career. Now, Jan never made it to Formula 1, of course he didn't, but he currently races in Super GT. So he's still a professional racing driver. So that's still better than nothing, isn't it? Like, people try and go to Formula 1, they don't get to Formula 1, so then they end up going to another form of motorsport. So, esports can produce drivers like that. And I think that's a good way of doing it. I believe that, and I think that's probably the route a lot will go. Maybe one rich kid will come into Formula E, dominate the series. He might get to Formula 1, but only if he's minted, like loaded, and has a lot of money behind him. Other than that, no, I really, really don't think so. Like Brendan Lee, who I mentioned before, he was, of course, 2-time esports world champion. Now, he got a bit of a contract, I believe, or he had some tests in Formula Ford. He did all right. I remember there was one statement where he said he crashed. That was like the biggest headline, but apparently he did quite well in the race, so everyone was kicking off with that headline. But like he's already had a bit of a taster of single-seater racing, so like I said, it is a good platform, but definitely not for Formula 1. But in saying that, though, this is like I said before, this is the future of racing. Like this is the future where, because if you're going up through the ranks and then all of a sudden you get to a certain level where you just completely run out of money and you can't you can't continue your career, then that's it done. That's a racing driver gone. It's getting the demands for it are getting harder and harder and harder, and the stakes and obviously the cost of each series is getting higher and higher. You're going to get to a point where like you're not going to have many drivers. So in each series, so where do you look? The virtual world. You give them a go. Then of course you're going to need money, but hopefully that might reduce the costs in each series, which is what Lewis Hamilton's trying to which is what he's trying to get back with the FIA. He's trying to campaign to reduce costs and stuff like that to get into racing, because like he got in when he wasn't full of money, like Norris and Stroll and everyone, like he wasn't minted, but he still managed to get to Formula 1 because of his dad remortgaging the house 3 times. It was a proper fairy tale story. So I think there is like that kind of logic way of getting in like that. But like I said, you will still need some backing, but because you've made a name for yourself in esports, then I'm pretty sure you will have that backing. So Lyle, do you think that racing drivers can be produced from esports, not Formula 1, but do you think that, let's say Brendan Lee can become a regular DTM driver, touring car driver, rally driver, for example? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think it is possible. The thing is, I mean, well, firstly, I didn't actually know about the Nissan series, so that's pretty good. I might have to go and check that out. The first thing is, yes, because they will harbour their experience and things like that. These esports drivers are amazing at driving on the on the PC. Obviously, that's of course not where you're going to get to. I mean, there's actually a movie. I don't know if anyone knows it. Called Ride Along. It's got Kevin Hart and Ice Cube in it. A very funny movie. And the idea is that Ice Cube is I'll start again. So Kevin Hart, he's a very high up level, player on a video game. It's supposed to be like Call of Duty. He's a cop. He's really high up. He's called Black Hammer and things like that. And then Ice Cube's character, he is a police officer for Atlanta PD. He's a proper, he's in real life, where you can actually get shot. And the funny thing is, actually, well, I mean, of course, they're related in its whole storyline. But the funny thing is, when they go out, is like the virtual guy, Kevin Hart, thinks that he's as good as Ice Cube. And that's where it all breaks down. So you can so imagine that, like an esports driver thinking he's as good as a Formula 1 driver. So normal racing, I mean, of course, yeah, because they can harbour their skills. The people that want to be Formula 1 drivers, racing drivers, all think that, they can just get in a car and make it go fast. These people, especially like, as you said, that Jan guy from the Nissan series, that's where he will have got there. He will have been a skilled guy before that. But then he'll have harboured his experience and got to the level that, he deserves to. And then at the end of it, he'll think, well, okay, I've shown everyone that I can do this, and I've shown myself that I can do this, and then I'll go and give it a go. But obviously, of course, as Jordan said, about the money and the kind of the spotlight, it isn't as easy as that. Possibly at the end of the esports series, if you've been a good driver like the two-time world champion, you said, if he can show that he is strong enough to get a Formula 4 drive, and then he'll get his opportunity. It's all about the opportunity, really. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's story only comes along once in a blue moon. Obviously, is absolutely exceptional. And that's the thing, these drivers a lot of them haven't got the opportunity. Again, me and Jordan always say there's handfuls of drivers out there who could possibly be as good as Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, but you'll never know because they never got that opportunity. And actually, there's one line in that. So again, when Jordan said about his father mortgaging the house 3 times, it was from a statement that Lewis said. And actually, one of the lines that I love about it, probably the best line about it all, is he says that when there's a guy who spends so long and he gets his opportunity in front of him, and then there'll be a rich kid who comes along, less experienced, and then he'll just leapfrog him.
Yeah,
and then that experience will have gone for the less kind of money conscious kid, the lesser wealthy kid, and that is Formula 1. Really, I mean, for example, Nicholas Latifi, Canadian driver, Formula 2, he's brilliant. He's a great driver. Me and Jordan really like him, but as I was saying to Jordan before, $200 million. That's the budget. That's the cap. That's the investment. I don't know who sponsored him. Canadian banks.
I think it's his dad.
I think he has got
his dad. That's his backer. Like Lando Norris and Lawrence Stroll. I think it's his dad.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the thing is, again, like we were just saying, so Nicholas Latifi, $200 million. Are Williams paying for Nicholas Latifi? Are they excited about getting Nicholas on board, or are they just excited about that money? And that's what Formula 1 is right now. It is about the money. And that thing, Marcus Ericsson, I mean, I'm sure, John, just quickly, on an unrelated topic, we talked about Longbow Finance for an extensive few episodes, sponsoring Marcus Ericsson, and we thought that Marcus had the experience and the backing. We thought that he had the financial backing and the experience in himself. Obviously, driven for Sauber 2 years, and he was a reserve driver before that. And then he doesn't have enough at the end of the day. So that is the world of Formula 1. And of course, in Nico Hulkenberg's stance, if you're gone, you're out. Very hard, next to impossible way of getting back in, and you will unfortunately not be missed, or you'll be forgotten about quite quickly. And that's obviously how Formula 1 works, unfortunately. So these drivers, if they get the opportunity, that might be the way of getting in. But really, they've got to kind of create this opportunity to get there first. So if they become world champion in esports, a team might see them in a lower down category and say, do you know what, I'm going to give you a go. And again, I'm just going to use a little example of another YouTuber that me and Jordan, of course, both follow from Newcastle, the True Geordie, very inspirational guy for us. He started his YouTube channel talking about Newcastle United, of course, and then he got bigger and bigger. And one of the first things that he started doing was he got involved with the KSI boxing match. He got involved with things like that, and he started doing kind of minor level commentaries where built up and up and up and up and up, and then again I think KSI, I forgot who it was. I think it might have been, was it the first Jake Paul fight or Logan Paul fight, one of the Pauls?
No idea.
And then again up and up and up, and then he did the commentary on that, and then the UFC fight, and then of course now he does the football debates, the kickoff show. And it's all gone that way for him, and he's got that opportunity and he's worked off it and he's climbed the ladder. So again, that might be the way for them to get in. Of course, if they have the potential in themselves, if they have the experience, if they have the charisma and the strong driving, because of course driving in real life is different to driving on a video game. But it just shows that if they're given that opportunity, that's how they can get in. But it is just so hard that they're going to have to make a real impact in that series. So the double world champion, as you were talking about, Jordan, he's got that opportunity in Formula Ford. If he takes that opportunity and he takes it well, then yes, he might be on to what Lando Norris is talking about. Not so much just in Formula 1, but in other series.
Yeah. We interrupt the F1 debate show to bring you this very important message. My camera cut out. For some reason, it just stopped working about 6.5 minutes into the second part. I've only just found out now, so I'm very, very frustrated, very, very angry, but the show must go on. So what I'm going to do instead then is I'm just going to put the thumbnail as the picture, and the rest of the episode from now on will just be in audio form. So good news for you guys, you don't have to see our ugly mugs, but of course the audio, of course I record audio and video separately, so that's a bit of a bonus now, so that at least I've still got audio, so you can still hear the rest of the episode, you just can't see anything else, so apologies for that. But anyways, I hope you are enjoying the episode, and yes, let's crack on with what Lyle was just saying before.
And maybe that's the route for these esports drivers. Just kind of work and trying to get that opportunity. They might have to go into minor league driving, but just hoping to get that opportunity one day. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're in probably one of the best positions to do it in, because as Lando Norris has said before, and as many of them have said, Formula 1, you have to have two things. You have to have a time machine to go back to when you were 4. And when you're 4, you have to have a go-kart, an unbelievably rich parents, and a track like right next to your house. That's what you have to have. If you're 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, you can't get into Formula 1. It's so young nowadays, so you have to have those kind of things. And if you don't, Formula 1, unfortunately, you're not going to see that, or high motor racing. The only way you're going to do it is by getting this opportunity in the lower levels, and I think that's what that's what esports could possibly lead to. And of course, as John said, that Nissan series that was on, I would have to go and check that out. It does sound really good, actually.
I loved that series when it was on.
Yeah,
I was really, really good. And actually, like his little fact for you as well. The guy I was on about, Jan Mardenborough, was actually born in Darlington. There you go. There's a little fact for you.
Well, there we go, local lad. Well, yeah, definitely local lad. So yeah, go on, Darlow, son. I mean, probably a Quakers fan as well. So of course, that is great that he gets that opportunity. So of course, as we've been saying, in my opinion and Jordan's opinion as well, Formula 1 driving, no. But of course, I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard the getting to the lower levels of motor racing if they ever get that way, if they get that opportunity. And I think that again, like I just said before, with the floodgates opening, if that happens, other drivers, other people might see this and think that's a way I can get in. So if there's a league, if there's a formula or whatever that's looking at these esports drivers, then people that want to be drivers, motor racing drivers, might not even have to be in Formula 1, will then look at that and think, do you know what, if I got an esport, if I show that I'm good enough, then I'll possibly be taken on. Because of course at the end of the day as well, it is talent.
Yeah.
You can chuck all the money you want at Formula 1. You can give £1 billion to Formula 1. If you're a terrible driver, they're not going to take you, of course. When we say money runs Formula 1, it's not like that. It's Lance Stroll and all that have talent. Jordan just can't give Formula 1 £1 billion tomorrow and expect to be driving a Mercedes car. I mean, I guess he has got the talent a little bit, but still. But yes, the opportunity just needs to be there, and I think that they could get that. And persistence, keep going at it. I mean, that double world champion, of course, he has the best chance of doing it, and this possibly could be an area. So just going back to what Lando Norris said, I think what he said didn't make sense, Formula 1, but I get where he's coming from, that this could be the best route for kind of us, normal, regular, workaday kind of people to get into Formula 1. Something that starts with just turning on your Xbox, turning on your PlayStation, signing up for esports, and that could lead to you driving in it might be like an obscure league, but you will be
Exactly.
in a driving, you will be racing in real life, which is absolutely incredible. And of course, any level, I mean, Jordan, any level, of course, would be absolutely incredible. And wherever I was, even if I was on, minor league, a non-televised race, I'd still be feeling like I was a Lando Norris or a Max Verstappen, of course. But of course, it's not us. A lot of other people have had their views and opinions, Jordan. So obviously, just final thing from you. And of course, you've heard quite a lot from like tweets and things like that from other people in the community about esports. So I mean, what's everyone else saying? And of course, what's your final thoughts about esports? What can it lead to? I mean, is this one of the only routes to get into Formula One? How right or wrong is Lando Norris?
Well, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, so we could, we might look back at this in 20, 30 years and go, oh yeah, we were totally wrong about this. But at this moment in time, Formula One, it's a bit too far for people like esports, and especially what you said earlier, Lyle, about them being quite... Formula One drivers are getting younger and younger, and people who are joining esports might be like 16, 17, 18-year-old, and even probably older than that, maybe like 22, 23, and maybe the chances of Formula One is kind of gone. And also as well, teams nowadays are looking for drivers with money. Now, a lot of people who are in Formula 2 and maybe even Formula 3 will have more money than those who came from esports. At this moment in time anyway, like I said, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, so literally anything could happen. But esport is getting bigger and bigger each year, and it will continue to grow, and it's a really, really good series. I am going to try and get more into it, but I just keep forgetting when like the streams are on, or whenever it's on YouTube and stuff. But I mean, we're talking like we're experts. We're no experts in the racing department. We'll leave that to the professionals. But still, though, I do love the idea of the series. It's a brilliant, brilliant series. Might make some videos on them at some point. I don't know, but like I said, really, really good series. But anyways, though, we asked some of you guys to leave your opinions about Formula One esports, and of course what Lando Norris said. What do you guys think? First one comes from one of our usual suspects now, F1 Fanatics Mike. He's always on the blower, isn't he? He just never leaves us alone, does he? He says, I still think it's a long way off for actual a non-track driver, but you could easily see one of them progressing pretty quickly as a simulator driver to one of them teams. Now, of course, we mentioned earlier that simulation is a very good possibility for one of those people to be involved with the team, because you can have more than one driver as a simulator driver. So, of course, that's a really good opportunity for them. And then a guy called David Noble, who he's a regular commenter on our videos. He responded to Mike and said, "Don't we already have that at McLaren with Rudy Van Buren?" Now, I looked up this guy, Rudy Van Buren. Now, he won this competition called the World's Fastest Gamer, which is run by McLaren. He won this in 2017. And he got offered a chance to become a McLaren simulator driver, which he was for a bit. I don't think he is now, but he's quite high up in terms of virtual racing and stuff, and he obviously has been involved with McLaren themselves. Now, one of the coolest things I found out about this guy, now this is what I was mentioning earlier about opportunities, Lyle. At Goodwood, the Goodwood Festival, they have these demo runs where you get to see these classic cars in the flesh. He drove Emerson Fittipaldi's McLaren M23 World Championship winning car. I don't want to say the year because I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was 73, 72, I don't know. Might be 70. Oh, no, it was 74. It was 74 because that was when McLaren won their first drivers' championship as a Formula One team. So yeah, I think Emerson Fittipaldi. He drove his car, this Rudy Van Buren. How incredible is that?
Wow.
That is amazing. All because of
wow.
playing some racing games in your room. But this guy was a karting. In fact, actually, this guy was karting at the same time Max Verstappen was. So you had that experience anyway, but that's still pretty good to drive a classic car like that. But of course, we all still want the big boy, don't we? We want the big prize at the end of the day, Formula One. Stephen Cole just says nothing beats real world driving. I think a lot of people are on that side of no, the virtual guys just stay out the way. We want the real guys in. And to be fair, if I had to choose which route that Formula One could go in, would it be the virtual world? Would it be the real world? I would probably say real world, because you know, you've actually been in the car and learned understanding the car in real life a lot longer than what you would in the virtual world. And I think it's just better in real life. It really, really is. I do like the games. I do like the virtual reality side of things, but nothing beats real life. I mean, like, would you rather drive a simulator Formula One car or a real life Formula One car? If you choose simulation, drive a Formula One car. You need to get out. You need to get out. I would choose F1 car any day of the week. I'm going to try and pronounce him. Le Boom Boom Team is his name. I think that's a pretty cool name. That's a cool name. He says it's likely. I'm going to try and pronounce his name. It's likely Kem Boluxby. Beluxby. I don't know who this guy is. Clem Beluxby, I'll go with that. Is doing some IRL, what Lyle mentioned before, IRL in real life, racing. Yeah, IRL racing after his sim racing. It could also work the other way around, where IRL drivers, in real life drivers, are retiring but competing in esports to keep their edge. Now that is a really, really good point, because let's say, you know, when a Formula One driver, their career ends, where do they go? Like exactly. Nico Hulkenberg, for example, right? What's he going to do in the future? I mean, it might go to DTM, IndyCar, Formula E, or
possibly,
or, exactly, or even put his hands in, or dip his feet in the water of esports. Now, for me, I couldn't see Nico Hulkenberg doing that, but Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, definitely could see them jumping over into I keep saying Formula E. Esports, Formula Esports. Let's just go with that one. Formula Esports. So yeah, I think that's a good route for like the younger generation. But like I said, I couldn't see likes of Vettel or Hamilton or Massa or anyone like that. I know Massa's retired, but that's one of the drivers that came to my head. Like those jumping off to the virtual world, but like the younger generation who's coming through, who are really involved, because there are drivers who aren't as really heavily involved into social media, aren't they not? Because obviously they're purely concentrating on the racing career, so they don't have time for that. But Lando Norris, of course, he does. So I think drivers like him will be involved and have a good go at doing esports in the future, which is definitely a good way to keep the edge and maybe get some of the old drivers in. I think I watched a video recently with WTF1. They did a thing with Juan Pablo Montoya with a simulation thing. I don't know which one it was. It might be Gran Turismo, I believe. I don't know. You'll know what I mean. I'm pretty sure you guys would have seen it. But yeah, I think that's also like I said, a really, really good point. So yeah, thank you for everyone that did send in their messages as well. And of course, as always, guys, please leave your leave your opinions rather in the comment section below. F1 esports, is it the future of Formula 1 drivers or not? What's your thoughts? And of course, virtual life, real life. What's your take on it? Which one would you rather IRL. Be? Where would your racing drivers want to come from? Virtual or real? But as always, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is where we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for watching as well. If you haven't already, go and check out our latest video. I think we did a video, our brand new mini series thing or whatever, where we talk about Nicholas Latifi being re-signed joining Williams as a full-time driver for next season. Of course, let's see how he gets on with that. Can't wait for that one. Of course, our Abu Dhabi Grand Prix preview. If you haven't watched that already, good one. Predictions. Go and leave your predictions if you haven't already onto that video. And of course, over on our Twitter at F1_day16. Go and give us a follow as well if you haven't already. And of course, tomorrow it's the finale, Lyle. It's the end of Formula One. It's our review, our final review, which will be done by me for one last time. As we say, au revoir, goodbye, ciao, adios to Formula One in 2019. Then we can go into hibernation.
And the 2010, it's the last race of the decade, Jordan, as well.
Exactly, so the last race of the decade, not only the last race of the season, last race of the decade as well. We've got some plans coming up in the winter, our festive period as well, what our videos going to be. We will be releasing them soon, just trying to think of a good schedule to go behind them. And of course, our off-season videos, getting ready for when F1 kicks off again in 2020. But anyways, guys, it's been...
Just one question, Jordan, as well. Just one last question before we end. Obviously, last race of the season, 1st of December tomorrow. Yes. Are you going to be cracking out the Christmas songs like Formula One is over, Christmas is starting? Or are you not there yet, or have you been there for the last 2 months?
See, I am a fan of Christmas, but I need to celebrate it at the right time. I can't celebrate it at the start of November or even mid-November. It's got to be at the right time.
Well,
So,
I guess when
so
the
I would
Formula
say,
One season is, I guess when it's
I
over,
would definitely say after Formula One, once that's finished, then
Yeah.
right, okay, get that done, get that
I
over and
always-
done with. Then I can concentrate
Yeah.
on stuff like that, Christmas stuff.
I always said that. I always said that Christmas can only be celebrated on two occasions: after the Formula One ended, or on the 1st of December. And actually, funny enough, but tomorrow and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix finishes, and they're both on the 1st of December.
So how
So
weird is that?
I won't get too Christmassy, but I guess it's fair enough if you want to then, because it's all over. But I mean, it's not a very Christmassy place that we're ended as well. In the 40-degree, 30-degree heat of Abu Dhabi. But the sunset, though, it does kind of, to me, it feels like the sunset, the end of the day. We're finishing
Exactly, it's
Formula
good.
One. So yeah, I mean, it is big, Jordan, as well. And obviously, you doing the review, quite big, because for you did the first one back in Australia.
Seems like only yesterday.
And then, yeah,
Seems like
it's-
only
it's
yesterday.
over.
Oh, it's going to be
It
emotional.
does.
It's going to be emotional.
How
We'll
about
hope
that?
you can
That's-
join us for that
that's
as well, and
crazy.
of course for the rest of the season, rest of the year, and into 2020, because we've got some really good plans for 2020. Can't wait to share you guys with them. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.